Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I am Bryce Runge. What up, everybody?
So how are you today?
I'm tired.
Yeah?
Yeah, just...
Okay, fair enough. Well, you know...
How about you, Rodney?
Well, I'm doing pretty decent. It was funny because I went to bed early last night because I was thinking, I'm going to make sure I'm up extra early today, start getting ready, get back into that habit a little bit. And, since summer's all but over, school starts, I even had a friend today say that even though it's still the end of July, they're headed back to new teacher in service. And I'm going, I do not miss that. But no, anyway, so I went to bed early.
Yeah.
And my idea of getting up early kind of died when suddenly it was 5 till 7. And it was like, holy cow.
Oh, wow. You're a couple hours late, buddy.
So instead of riding the bike and doing my mile walk through the neighborhood, I just did the mile walk through the neighborhood.
Oh, nice.
So
good for you.
That way I was able to get ready and start my day off. But I've been doing a lot of work. I told you I've been doing the coursework to become a licensed professional counselor.
Right.
And the goal or the idea of that is to work with divorced families.
Okay.
And I've been doing some work with supervised visitation, helping, parents be able to see their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also been working with some ladies on some other projects for helping high conflict divorces.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole new, Eric's Place of Hope is dedicated to helping divorced families.
Yeah. And
make through, and not just the parents, but the kids as well. And so not too long ago, I ran across this article.
Okay.
And it was, she's by a lady, her name is Colleen Sheehy Orman. And she's an independent journalist. She contributes to different news publications all over the country, all over the world, maybe.
Okay.
Anyway, she wrote an article that says, "Does divorce exaggerate personalities?"
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking about my trip through divorce land. Of course, for all the years, over a decade's worth of participation with the divorce recovery group.
Right.
Got to be friends with a lot of people, and of course through their divorce. And so it made me think, wow, do a self-analysis. Does divorce change a person's personality?
Mm.
So what do you think? Do you think it does?
Well, I'd have to go take a trip back to 2011. let me get back to you.
Okay.
I don't know.
How about a gut knee-jerk reaction?
Yeah.
Would you say yes or would you say no?
Yeah, I would say yes. Then, if I had to just give you a quick answer, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what I was thinking. I look at me, and I look at how divorce changed me.
Yeah.
And people can go, well, Rod, yours was very bizarre, very unique. Of course it would. You're dealing with your ex-wife committing suicide. You're dealing with her committing murder and killing Eric. Okay, yeah, sure. That is true.
Right.
But at the same time, I look at a lot of people and I look at them after divorce. And, we talked about, well, what were they like before, the process, and how they have handled it afterwards. And I would say almost every person I know changed as a consequence.
Right.
And from careers to, I have a friend of mine that through the course of the divorce, he found that he could make money as a painter, and now he is a professional painter.
Yeah, okay.
And he's done major projects.
Really?
He even did Southwest Airlines. Their 50th anniversary was last year, and so he was commissioned to paint in their corporate office.
Wow.
I mean,
That's legit.
Yeah. And so I found this article interesting, and so I thought, well, maybe we could kind of take a look at it and see. Again, our knee-jerk reactions are yes, but is that legit?
Right. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
All right. So she taught, again, Colleen does, it's a short little article, and I thought, anyway, it was kind of interesting because some of the things she points out is that a lot of times there's a controlling factor in the divorce or in the marriage that kind of leads to the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to my own experience, and yeah, there was a lot of controlling. And even through the process, she tried to dictate the narration of the story and all the issues of the court hearings, the conversations, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I could get down with that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with some of this stuff,
sorry.
If you've never been through divorce, or whether as a kid or as a spouse, it might be hard to relate to some of this.
Mm-hmm.
But given that over half of marriages end in divorce, a lot of kids, a lot of adults have experienced either as kids themselves or as spouses, and it's amazing how, even though everybody's different, how many similarities there are.
Right.
And I think the trauma of the divorce creates all kinds of issues. Yeah. And I think we all deal with trauma in many different ways. Yet I think in some ways, I wonder, is divorce a way for an opportunity to restart?
Yeah, I mean, it's for a lot of people, when they look back, they're like, wow, that was actually a blessing in disguise. Like a lot of people view it that way, or okay, well, this was a situation that took place in my life that actually turned out to be a positive turning point.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, obviously it sucked, and everything looked horrible, right? And everything mm-hmm. looked horrific. It looked like a complete disaster, but that, going through all that, then, realizing, okay, well, this actually was a setup for something, much better, and you could, there's a lot of things, and me personally speaking, through my situation, one, I could say, well, look at me. I have, I'm married to a beautiful woman, and I have two beautiful girls, added to my legacy mm-hmm. now. And so, but I had to eventually get to a point where, like, okay, I can't keep swimming in this sorrow. I have to start looking in a different direction, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I would just say, looking back, like, wow, that was more of a blessing in disguise than I realized. But you can't. It's hard to, when you're going through it. Oh yeah, this is going to turn out to be just phenomenal. This is exactly what I needed to happen right now in this season of my life. Not a lot of people are thinking like that. I try to condition myself and develop my mindset to think, when I experience adversity, find the positives. How can I grow from this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But only because I've gone through, and you've gone through the things that we've gone through, we're able to develop more of a mindset like that. Not that it makes it easier for us when we face adversity to say, yes, I am totally with this, and I'm gonna grow from this, and we're gonna get better from this. It's not always the case. If you're still tracking with me at this point, I feel like I've been rambling, but again, not everyone's gonna look at at the current situation and be like, yeah, this is exactly what I needed in my life right now, because this is going to turn out to be great.
And I think that's part of what Colleen is saying in her article is that it happens.
Yeah.
And it's a crap storm when it happens. There's a lot of reasons why it happens. And, and as I was reading through, she talks about, there's good things, there's bad things, there's good divorces. And of course, there's always the bad divorces. But I do think that you're right. When you're in the middle of the blood and guts, it's hard to imagine that it will get better.
Right.
And I think it's hard to imagine that this is happening for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember thinking of all the different disappointments I've had in life. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Did I screw up so bad that this is God's way of punishing me?
Right.
When in truth, with, again, the benefit of hindsight, I mean, yes, we're going back 2010, 2011 for my divorce. And, that has been 11 to 12 years.
Wow, yeah.
And it is amazing how much time, has provided perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that, like you said, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
I didn't think at the time it was a good thing going through the divorce. Mm-hmm. I knew I didn't like the way the marriage had evolved.
Right.
There was a lot of things that I had done, things that she had done, a lot of negatives.
Yeah.
And those seemed to rise to the top instead of all the positives that had also been available or, have been part of the marriage.
Right.
Marriage is never all good or all bad. It's
right.
a decent mix of both.
Yeah.
And so we had all the mess.
Mm-hmm.
But with 11 years, 12 years of reflection, growth, understanding, diving into, again, the joy of working with divorced families has allowed me to better understand my own.
Yeah.
Diving into the world of mental health has allowed me to better understand a lot of the things that we both did. Because it wasn't all her. I will absolutely admit I did some things that I'm not real proud of.
Mm-hmm.
That I played a big part in helping lead to the divorce. And so I think for me, though, the benefit has been with all that reflection, I realized, let's not do that again.
Right.
Divorce gave me an opportunity to reset.
Yeah.
Because my personality had dramatically changed. I had gone from who I was when we first met and married to who I had become by the time we divorced, and I realized I didn't like who I had become.
Right.
And so I changed.
Yeah.
And I think I swung the pendulum too far the other way. But I'm coming back more towards what I think of anyway as a middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a lot happier.
Yeah.
Either that or it's, the endorphins from the exercise I do.
You on your bike?
Yeah, actually riding the bike, riding it and doing the walking, the exercise.
Yeah.
So.
You had made a comment before. It's one of the chapter in my book that's why is this happening to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of people are going to say, well, okay, kind of going, being a little bit redundant here, why, changing that one word, to instead of two, putting a four. Why is this happening for me?
Mm-hmm.
Again, kind of going back, not everyone's going to operate that way, but when you start to experience challenges and adversity and setbacks and all that, if you could start to embrace that type of mentality, you start to see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what helps you, okay, now I try and view from that perspective. Why is this happening for me?
Okay.
We had a conversation and they had read that part and they're going through a situation and, well, I don't get how anyone could come to that resolution. Why is this happening for me? Right? Maybe in 10 years I will. If in 10 years you can, why can't you now?
Okay, yeah. I think sometimes, though, it's hard to be in that mindset. To put your mind, to move yourself away from the idea that this is happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, if you're in the middle of all the drama
Right.
and trauma of the events,
Mm-hmm.
you're in survival mode.
Right.
Rather than being at a higher, using your higher level brain functions, you're more in that fight or flight animal instincts.
Right.
And it may be hard.
Yeah.
Again, for me personally, I could not. I truly was in that.
Yeah.
The amygdala part of the brain that says fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there, and it was really hard for me going through that 18 months of, well, yeah, pretty much the entire 18 months of hell.
Right.
Because you didn't know what was coming next. You constantly were being hit, boom, then boom, and then boom.
Right.
And so it's hard to, I could see that. I think that it did not take me 10 years to find that I realized that this was better.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that my personality began to change. I had people notice within months of the separation that my personality had changed, that I had gone from so much anger and bitterness in how I talked and dealt with people to a more relaxed way of dealing with people.
Yeah.
So
the further, it's like that one movie, Hancock, with Will Smith and Charlize Theron or whatever.
Yeah.
The further he got away from her, the healthier he became. Sadly, there's a lot of those situations, and I think, I can relate to that. And not just through the divorce, there's been a lot of relationships where that's, okay, that I've been involved with that, family members, your family's quick to point out how much you've changed because you started seeing a certain individual. But I have noticed that, of course, you start to change in your ways, which I don't think is good. Which I don't know. I don't think that's good. Maybe some things you can adjust on some things, right? But I noticed that the further I got away from certain relationships, friendships or whatever, right? Going back to when I started my pursuit back to the NFL, there were people that I was aligned with that the further I got away from hanging out with those people, the stronger I became, the healthier I became, the more determined I came to pursue what I was going after. They weren't weights in my life.
I think you're right. I think there are a lot of people, or if you do a forensic look of who you're hanging out with, who are your influences on you, some are really good and some are not so good. I think, we as parents look at our children's friends and we go, oh, well, these are great influences on you. Right. Or, oh my gosh, this person is a horrible influence. Look at all the things that they are encouraging you to think, to say, to do.
Right.
And I see only trouble for you. You should not hang out with this person. But I agree with you that our relationships, not just romantic ones, can have an impact on us. I see that at school with different kids. Right. How, kids will act a certain way when the dynamics within the classroom, where one person being absent or present can make all the difference in a good class or a bad class, and how certain kids will respond to that one individual And that one individual can make or break a classroom environment. Well,
Right.
it's, I think, the same way with relationships. And okay, one of my oldest, dearest friends, her mom and dad live next door to us, and we've been friends since, well, crying out loud, since stroller days.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And she married her husband back, a couple years, I don't know, early 90s, and they're still happily married together. They are a good fit.
Nice.
I thought I found a good fit, and it turned out, no, I wasn't. But I look at who I am today, and I changed dramatically because of the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry has changed a lot because of the divorce, and we are way more compatible today than had we met, 40 years ago.
Right.
Because if we had met, out of high school, or right out of college, our personalities would not have clicked, and we would not have even been friends, let alone wound up dating or getting married.
Right.
But so, I mean, one of the things, and I think you can relate, I think, to this as well, but one of the components that became part of the divorce was that Eric's mother was not very faithful to me.
Okay.
And it really challenged my understanding of trust. Because she kept saying, well, I'd never cheat on you. I'd never cheat on you.
Right.
Well, I moved out one weekend and her boyfriend moved in the following weekend.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, well, you lied about that too. It made me question a lot and have trust issues that has taken a long time for me to, because Sherry would get a text message. Well, who was that?
Right.
She'd get a phone call. Oh, who was that? Oh, just a friend. Oh, just somebody.
Right.
Well, that then would send up, oh my. And I would become, and I never thought of myself as a jealous person,
Mm-hmm.
but I found I was expressing a lot of jealousy.
Right.
Who is it? Who is it?
Mm-hmm.
You need to tell me. And so a part of my personality did change, and not for the better, as a consequence of the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have learned how to deal with that and trust that Sherry is not a liar. She is not going to stab me in the back like Eric's mother did. And so that my faith is well placed, and I'm way better at, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and reciprocate that by showing, oh, hey, look, I just got this funny text.
Right.
Or, phone calls come in, I'll put them on speakerphone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want her to think that there's any shenanigans going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that speaks to me too. That's happened to me a couple times. Maybe I'm the problem. So over, through my relationships, that's kind of built up, and obviously through the divorce, there was a lot of that, and so there was a gap, 5 years. Specific. It was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
At first you didn't go through the day. We talked about this on a previous episode, probably season 1, about like the getting back in the dating and all that. Right? Yeah. And you hit it on here a little bit ago. In reflection, you spent 10 years in reflection. You knew that you weren't in a good place, and it wouldn't have worked with you and Sherry at 10 years, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And so. So again, I know we've talked a lot of things, right? But that time and reflection, so that you can repair, you could heal, you could start fresh. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of people just jump right in. Another thing we've talked about, mm-hmm. why it's important that you step back, mm-hmm. you heal, okay, you reflect, you repair, and then you move on. And I, was pretty intentional with that after I decided to forget the dating scene. I've got a lot of work on myself that I need to do. But going into, the relationship with Suzanne, there were some situations early on that it's like she was paying the price for someone else's sins. Uh-huh. And so that was a struggle for me. And I know that, I had spoken to Brian, who was on our podcast, Brian Bill Hartz, a handful of times, and the one thing that just always sticks out to me, and it just rings true today. Maybe it's for someone who's listening, like, only a fool trips on what's behind them. And so that's kind of when I had to just lay it all down. Like, it's not fair to Suzanne to almost like punish her for what someone else had done to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, either you need to get into counseling to figure out your trust issues, or you need to work through this. And so, but I had talked to several people, and well, not several people, a handful of people, specifically Brian as a mentor, who had helped me through that. But it took some time, because the same thing, it would be Suzanne, who works in software, the tech industry, who works with a lot of male sales reps.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my gosh, that guy's pretty dang good looking. It's like, oh, well. Then I look in the mirror like, but look at me. Yeah, that guy stands no chance. Oh, wait.
Well, it depends. Are you flexing? I mean, if you're flexing.
I was like, man, I fold that guy in half like wet cardboard. Shoot. No, but it's something through the divorce and the things that we've experienced. You and I have that in common. And so it's like one of those things that we took into the new marriage that we had to work on. But we had been working on it, and there's new things that are going to come up. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I was holding on to that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was still there, but you got to work on it, because that will be damaging. And I know that there was things that I said and did that, I don't want to say damage, it brought up conflict, and we knew that we had to work through it. And I know I had a lot to work on myself.
I think that's kind of what, Colleen is saying in this article, because she talks about the issues related to anger. How, again, dealing with the trust, because as you age, as you have experiences, your personality changes. I don't know that it can ever truly stay the same, because life experiences impacts your way of thinking.
Right.
And so I totally agree. I guess not just because I'm going to become a professional counselor, but the fact that having been to a counselor, been under counseling care since February of 2011, the value I found in helping me work through and process, again, the depression, the anger, the anxiety, the stress, all that came from the divorce, the consequences after, and trying to, identify exactly who am I.
Right.
And so I like this article because it seemed so relevant to so many people. Yeah. Because again, divorce is not just between a man or between a husband and wife, but it's also the family. It's also the extended family. It's the children.
Right.
And it can have long-lasting consequences. And so I think the answer definitively through our conversation, absolutely your personality is going to change.
Right.
Hopefully for the better. But I think that it would be silly and foolish to say that divorce has little impact
on
a person's personality.
Oh yeah. Well, it's definitely gonna, like you said, it's gonna have an impact, and not just on the person getting divorced, but like you said, the extended family. And if there's children involved, then certainly. Children.
I mean, think about it. Has Braddock's changed in? Well, I guess that's not fair because he was less than one when you guys separated.
He was 2, but thank God he was so young. But not that it's easy. So we just had that conversation the other day. We were driving, and I always try and if you've been divorced and you've got kids, like, I always try and find opportunities to have a conversation with them and do a check-in with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, how you doing? We just talked the other day, like, something to the effect, like, with going back and forth, like, I don't know what it's like, because, grandma and grandpa, they're still married.
Uh-huh.
Whether they really want to be right now or not, they're still married, and they're like going on like 700 years of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know what it's like for you. I've never gone back and forth. We've all been under one roof. For you, we're very fortunate. You've got 2 beautiful homes, you got 2 families. But again, not to say that that's can't be stressful or confusing. Mm-hmm. And so we just kind of open up a conversation and, like, if just wherever it went, like, right, just wanted to check in if he's frustrated, if it stresses him out, or if he's sad about some, right, just to keep that line of communication open. And I always try and find those moments. It seems like when we're driving or something, it's just an opportunity, to check in. I'm not sure where I was going with this.
Well, no, I think that
if you've got kids and you're not having those conversations, it's again, we've talked about that, having the appropriate conversations with your kids. It had nothing to do with if there was any drama with his mom and I, because whatever, it wasn't about that.
Right.
You don't have that conversation with your kid, or the divorce, or any money, whatever. That was just to check in on him. How are you doing?
And that's really good, because I think that kids, I'm reading a book by a gentleman that I admire, and it was talking about divorce for your children. And I think it is important to have a check-in like that, because I think so many times when mom and dad are going through the process, they focus on each other and don't always consider the children. Yeah. And so they, instead of being casualties of war, need to be shielded as much as possible. And even in the aftermath, even after the divorce, checking in with them, because they do, like us, have the same kinds of, well, not same kinds, but they still have stress. They still have anxiety. They still have anger and depression. And so,
yeah, no, and I just, because it's, time could get away from you. Next thing you know, your kid turns 13. Holy crud. We communicate quite a bit. But as we continue to get older, I want to make sure that just because it's been 10 years or 11 years doesn't mean everything's Skittles and rainbows, right? So I think those consistent check-ins are definitely crucial. But anyways, that's a good article and a good podcast by you.
Oh, well, no.
Just your little sidekick over, but it's good. I think you hit the nail on the head there with the impact of divorce.
Well, it is a part of our life. It's a part of so many families, and I thought it hit very well with, again, kind of our mission statement.
Right.
So it's okay to have a personality change.
Yeah.
Just so long as hopefully that personality change is on a more positive side than a negative.
Yeah, for the better.
So I guess I better check myself into the loony bin.
Jeez, take me with you. I hear they give you free meals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just breakfast.
Oh, okay.
Lunch, you're on your own for lunch and dinner.
Okay. Well, on that note, then I guess we'll call it a day.
All right.
Well, my name's Rod.
Bryce here.
See ya.
Bye.